Alrighty, welcome everybody to our May VMFA meeting. If this is your first time, welcome. This is the Greater Triangle Veterans Military and Families Alliance. I'm just going to start us off by sharing what the objectives of this group is, and then we're going to get into our introductions. The mission of the VMFA is to strengthen the local veteran and military community. Our objectives are to identify gaps, opportunities, and barriers in service to improve service to veterans and military families, coordinate information on services for veterans and military families, and educate veterans, military families, and community advocates on community-based efforts and suicide prevention. So today's topic, the general topic is benefits, but we're going to dive more into VA housing. And so we have today David Piatek. Did I pronounce that right?
That's right. You got it good. And Polish too. Thank you.
David Piatek here with VA Housing Education, and he's going to share all about his resources and kind of give us a good overview. But before we get into that, we're going to do introductions around the room. Please share your name, your military affiliation, and if you're representing an organization, share who you're here representing. My name is Landry Young. I'm the Marketing Outreach Manager with the Joel Fund, and my military affiliation is my husband. And let's bounce it over to Brooke. Oh, you're on
Muted.
mute.
Thank you. My name is Brooke Dickhart. I'm the executive director and founder of the Joel Fund. My military connection is my dad. My dad was a Navy SEAL for 20 years, and he is the reason that we do this work. So great to meet everyone and looking forward to this very necessary conversation. So thank you. Oh, do I pass it?
Popcorn it? Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay, Randy, you're up.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Randy Silver. I am one of the Veterans Employment Representatives with NC Works. I am an Army retiree. So let's jump it over to Jamin.
Thank you, Randy. I always hate following Randy. That's always that's a tough one. All right, my name is Jamin Etchison, and I am an Army retiree as well. I support and work for Veterans Upward Bound. We are a pre-college course connecting veterans with the resources needed in order to have a successful education. And I will pass it to, looks like Victoria. Good to see you again.
You too. My name is Victoria Knott, and I'm a care coordinator for the Joel Fund. My military connection is my father. And I will pass it to Kurt.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kurt Barsh. I'm a resident of the Greater Raleigh area. I'm a job seeker, so thanks all of you helping out with job hunting. And I'm just trying to find my place and do a good thing in the local community. And I stem from the vast forces of the Air Force. Give them the guns. There we go.
They do have a lot of guns. I'm working with them right now. They're dangerous people.
Right on. Air power.
A lot of air power. You got to pass it on.
Oh, apologies. My interface. I'm looking around. How about Wingate?
Hi, everyone. Wingate Grimes. This is the first meeting that I've attended. I got the email and I saw the topic about housing, so it was interesting to me. I'm not representing anyone other than myself, and my military affiliation is former Army as well as Navy veteran. And happy to be here. Thanks.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Let's go over to Cynthia. Cynthia, are you able to introduce yourself? Almost. That's okay. David, I'll let you quickly introduce yourself and then we'll go back to Cynthia.
Awesome. David Piatek, currently serving. I will be retired in 2.5 years. Can't wait for that. On the Army side. So, and then I have Am I echoing? Oh, Cynthia's unmuted. Oh, Cynthia's unmuted. Oh, Cynthia's
There we go. Okay. All right, we should be good now.
Am I good?
Yes.
Awesome. And I'm also the founder of VA Housing Education, our platform for educating veterans. And I'm also director of government lending at Waterman Bank.
Thank you. All right. Cynthia, are you able to introduce yourself?
I think I'm ready now.
Oh, yeah, there's a.
Can you hear me? I got this echo. You can't hear me? You can't hear me? You can't hear me? You can't hear me?
There we go. There we go.
Now?
Okay.
Ooh, thank you, Jesus. All right. So I'm Cynthia Harris with USA Veterans Help. I'm the lead case manager, and we are a housing program, transitional housing program for veterans. And my military connection is my husband, who is a former Marine. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. All right. So that's everybody. And if folks hop in late, that is okay. But David, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me on, because I think we met at the VBA event. So we're also a partner of the VBAs doing presentations with those folks. So today we're going to do maybe about a 15-minute presentation. I can talk for 8 hours if you'd like, or I can talk for 5 minutes. Just kind of depends. But all the stuff that we're going to go over is going to be the key things that veterans struggle with or self-disqualify themselves from. Okay. And then I'm going to just touch on eligibility, income, credit, because that's kind of like the big pieces to someone being able to utilize their VA home loan. And for a lot of folks, like a lot of services you guys provide, like getting a job or housing, has to do around stability, which normally is going to be them being able to utilize the VA home loan. So let me share my screen here. Make sure you guys can see it. You guys can see that here? Awesome. All right, cool. So I'm just going to dive right into this stuff so it just maximizes the time that we have. So first thing is going to be talking about some of the myths that exist. Now, this one somehow still exists today, which is you can only use the VA home loan once. The fact is that it's a life benefit, and veterans can have multiple VA home loans at the same time. So if you buy a home as your primary residence, and then you can turn that into an investment property and still purchase another property. And as long as you have enough entitlement, you can still use the VA home loan. The same thing applies if you had a foreclosure with a VA loan. If you have enough entitlement, you can still buy another property. So this does happen to a lot of veterans, because I believe like right now, I think there's like 90,000 veterans facing foreclosure, which is a whole separate topic of like what things that they can do, but happy to answer that when we get to that. My VA disability isn't income. We hear this a lot, and we work with a lot of veterans that receive, let's just say, VA disability as their only source of income. Not only that, lenders can actually gross that income up, giving them more power to purchase a property. Is that good or bad? The VA does factor that into what's called residual income, but I'm going to stop there because this will get real technical real fast. But just knowing that a lot of veterans, if they receive, let's say, 100% VA disability compensation, they can qualify normally up to about a $400,000 property. And depending on where they're living, they can also be exempt from property taxes. And so that's important to know. A lot of veterans that are looking for more affordable options like condominiums oftentimes get kind of led astray from the real estate community and lending community, letting them know that it's a really hard process. It takes forever. And I'm here to let you know that it is a very easy process, but the lender has to be familiar with that process. And there's also currently legislation that's being introduced to eliminate the need for VA condo approvals. If at the end, I'm going to share my YouTube channel, VA Housing Education, because I cover each of these topics in depth. I have over 400 videos like of covering everything we're talking about. So you can always go to that, search it, and then you'll be like, all right, I see what he's talking about. Another big misconception is you can only buy a single family home. The fact is you can buy condos, townhomes, multifamily properties up to 4 units, which is big for veterans. They can buy a farm residence, manufactured homes, modular homes, log homes if they would like, which gives them the ability to kind of expand. Not only that, you can use the VA loan to do a construction loan. So you can build a house with land at 100% financing, which no other loan program out there even comes close to letting folks do. And we've seen a lot of success with the top 2 myths because I work with a lot of used to be homeless veterans, but once they were in some of the VA's programs for homelessness, they were able to get their VA disability compensation. We were able to help them with their credit, and then they were able to get themselves in a position to be able to become homeowners. So it's 100% possible to be able to do that. Another myth that a lot of veterans have is that the home has to be perfect. And I hear this time in, time out again. The home just needs to be livable, safe, sound, and sanitary, right? The VA does do an extra layer of protection both for itself and for veterans because they are buying at 100% financing. So it is something to note, but they are also trying to pass legislation right now to ease that burden on veterans to become more competitive. Another myth is that you can't buy an investment property with a VA loan. Now, you can buy up to a 4-unit building, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. So you live in 1 unit and you can rent out the other 3, and you can take existing properties that have met the occupancy requirement, which is only 1 day, and it can be turned into an investment property, and then veteran can go then buy another property if they choose to do that, right? Everyone's situation is drastically different. One thing that a lot of veterans are concerned about is higher interest rates, but VA loans typically have lower rates than what market rates are. The challenge that most veterans face in this space is they go with the big named companies that charge them a ridiculous amount of money to use the VA loan. Anytime you see any type of marketing going on, let's say if you're on Facebook, Google, or any of these platforms, they're paying crazy amount of money for those leads, and then veterans end up paying that money. So on average, veterans will overpay $8,000 in closing costs by working with some of the larger banks, which is wild, but it is, that's nothing. We're trying to change that, but we'll see. And then the last one I'm going to go through, which is sellers won't accept VA offers. And this is something that I also teach the military relocation professional certification for the National Association of Realtors, and I teach finance courses for them. But the misconceptions that not only veterans have, but also the real estate and lending community have is wild, number one. But this is why we do the VA Housing Education YouTube channel, because that way veterans can educate themselves and then put themselves in a better spot. Because we hear a lot of times when people do reach out, they say that you've said the exact opposite of what my realtor said. Well, because we provide information from the VA handbook, which is the VA's like Bible, you could say, of how to process a loan and what veterans can and can't do. Now, the first step for most veterans, even if they're not buying, or they're buying, right, then it's more important, but they should request a certificate of eligibility. So if you haven't looked at one in a while, or if you've bought a home and you've sold that home, you should check it. It's free for you to get. There's a couple places where you can go. If you have a va.gov account, you could literally just go right in there and request it yourself. It's pretty easy. You can ask a lender to be able to pull that for you. Typically, if a certificate of eligibility doesn't come back, then a DD-214 or a statement of service for active duty service members would apply. One thing to note that's interesting, we actually talk to a lot of veterans that are 100% permanent and totally disabled, and they don't qualify for a VA home loan. And that's because they don't meet the eligibility requirements. And that's normally because they don't have the 2-year requirement of being on active duty to meet that. So they get out prior to 2 years because they got medically injured, but because the service they were in just wanted to expedite their process out, or the veteran chose to do that, they got a general discharge and not a medical discharge. So with a medical discharge, you only need to serve 1 day. I don't know how VA disability upgrades work, but I am going to be doing a video on it in the next month or so. I have to find an expert on that because it is a challenge for a lot of veterans. Because if you guys don't know, well, like I mentioned earlier, actually, veterans that receive 100% VA disability compensation normally qualify for some type of property tax break. Now, if they pass away, that passes on to their spouse as well, right? But if a veteran, let's say if they pass away, their spouse wants to use the VA home loan, then they have to be receiving normally indemnity compensation. That's where a service member passed away from a service-connected disability or while on active duty. So that is something to know if you have clients that may be in that position. You can always feel free to reach out. I have a link that people can schedule a call with me. It's on all my videos as well. That way they can kind of figure out what is their next steps and what they can do, even if it's now or even in 3 or 4 years from now. But most of the time, veterans don't plan that far out. Even if a certificate of eligibility shows 0 entitlement, it's somewhat confusing. And I have a whole separate video that breaks that entire process down on how to read it and what it means. But you normally would still have some type of entitlement. Even if you exhaust your entire VA loan, you still have unlimited VA home loans if you put a 25% down payment. Okay. And then the thing so eligibility is making sure you have the VA home loan to be able to use it. The second part, which you need both parts, eligibility and qualification. Qualification comprises of 3 main things. It's credit collateral capacity. So credit, right? What is your credit score? Now, the VA doesn't require a minimum credit score, but when there is no credit present, then they have to provide documentation to a lending institution showing that they've made, on-time payments, both on some type of utility bills, because you may be working with veterans that are homeless that have no liabilities, but they may have a cell phone, or they may live somewhere, but they're paying the electrical bill. So lenders can normally tie that together to be able to help them through that process. But the VA itself technically doesn't have a minimum. Most lenders have a 580 or higher score requirement. The reason for that is complicated, and we don't have the time on this thing. But I have a whole video on the channel. And a big piece is income, right? Because what lenders don't want to do and what the VA doesn't want to happen is to put veterans that have non-stable income into home ownership, and then all of a sudden one small thing happens and they default. This is why they will look at the makeup of someone's experience. So a lot of times what we hear from people is that you absolutely need a 2-year work history, and you don't, right? Transitioning out of the military into the civilian sector can make sense if it's like a fixed income, like a W-2, guaranteed hourly. Maybe you're a nurse in the military and now you're a nurse in the civilian side. All of that stuff could be tied together. Or let's just say somebody went to school for 4 years, they just got out, and then they got a full-time job. Same thing applies. They can use that income right away to qualify. So home ownership in itself for the veteran community, they're able to access benefits much sooner than any other demographic because of those benefits. And I remember a couple of years, this is like 10 years ago when I really started working with veterans. And I've been in the service now for almost 18 years. We had a family, like 8 separate families sit down, went over these benefits, and there were all those myths existed. Like, I thought we needed to put money down. We thought this, and it just kind of was like an eye opener to kind of do a lot of these type of presentations. But income like VA disability, Social Security income, that income can be used. Part-time income requires 2 years. Just kind of note that. VA is very lax on its asset requirements. And what does that mean? So you don't really need reserves. And reserves are like money set aside in the event something happens, which I think is one downside of a VA loan because it does provide so much flexibility for veterans to use it. They can put themselves in a bad position. And this is why budgeting, credit, almost at any stage of life is critical because it allows them to manage money. So in the event something happens with home ownership, then they're able then to overcome that because we see, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, where you have veterans that live in homes that they own, but they're completely dilapidated. And it kind of, they're not able then to make a profit on that sale other than just selling the land, right? And it's unfortunate to see that, but this is why budgeting and credit are so important because credit gives you access to lower fees, lower interest across the board. And if you have an emergency, you can always access credit. And that's kind of like the challenge for some veterans that may not use credit at all. Getting them worked into working on getting some type of credit, I think is important. If you guys would like to do like a credit class, I'm happy to do that as well down the road because it is an important part of just general finances. And then when it comes to home ownership itself, if you haven't owned a home before, there's a lot of costs. And if you own a house, property, listening to this, you know that when you buy a house and you've never owned one, you have to buy a lawnmower, you have to buy tools, you have to buy a ton of stuff. You're not calling the landlord anymore to say, "Oh, I need this fixed." And if you're calling a handyman or someone to come and fix it, you're paying a lot of money for that, right? So it's kind of a holistic approach, like from my end. Like this is why I do the videos, because that way people can kind of like spend the day kind of jumping around, seeing like, "Oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, I didn't factor that in. How is this going to look?" Because like with just VA disability alone, every state and county is different for what they accept for getting a property tax exemption or not, right? Some have income limits, some have acreage restrictions. A lot of veterans want to own a lot of land, and that's great, but you can't always do that, right? So I try to, cut this down to be about, we did about 10, 15 minutes. I'll stop here so you guys can ask questions. This is my YouTube channel, VA Housing Education. So if you guys check that out, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button. And yeah, I'll open it up for a Q&A for what you guys have questions on.
Thank you, David. So much information, and I get your emails whenever you post new videos, and so it's always fresh on my mind.
Oh, nice.
So this is great. If you have a question, you can raise your hand or just come off mute. Go ahead, Kurt.
I can't find the raise hand button. Apologies. So David, thank you. Fantastic brief. Along the discussion, you'd said something about having to put 25% down to have an unlimited purchasing capacity. But if you don't, you forfeit that pathway. Can you focus on that for just a moment to clarify that?
Yes. So if you don't have a VA loan, right, you don't have one right now at all, and you want to buy a $5 million house, you can buy it with zero money down. Okay. So it applies when you don't have a VA loan. There's no limit as long as you're eligible, you have your VA loan not being used, and you're qualified, you can make the mortgage payment. It goes back to the old rules when you have multiple VA home loans. So right now, the single family county loan limit is $832,750. Okay. So if you bought a house for $432,750, you have exhausted that much of that amount. So you would have $400,000 left to buy another property with zero money down. But let's say you found a $500,000 property. So you'd have to put a 25% down payment on the $100,000 to cover the gap of the VA, because the VA guarantees the loan by 25%. And let's say you did that, right? Let's say you bought a $400,000 property. Now you've exhausted your entire entitlement that's available to you. And you didn't sell any of those homes. Now, if you bought another property, you have to provide that 25% guarantee. So if you bought a $100,000 house, you'd have to put $25,000 down. If you bought $1 million house, you'd have to put $250,000 down. Now, if you have two veterans in a family, one can use theirs to do this. The next one could buy with their benefits. It doesn't really make a difference on that. Does that clarify it?
Yes, it does. So basically, it seems like you have an entitlement space capacity reserve, right? And how you exceed those threshold, that is a continuous bubble, if you will, based on the assets that you're owning and their configurations. But if you breach that certain amount, you gotta, and you're getting outside of that sphere, you need to put 25% on anything. If you do 8 or 10 houses, and a weird on you, I'm just thinking mathematically, your guarantee outside of that safety cone for the VA is saying, okay, you're outside of that sphere, 25% reduces our risk for you to participate. Is that kind of the philosophy?
Yeah, pretty much. But just remember, if you don't have a VA loan, there's no limit, right? So, and sometimes what people will do is they'll sell a property or two, and then all of a sudden, or they'll pay it off, move it into LLCs or trusts, and then all of a sudden, now that frees up your benefits because you've transferred ownership from you as a veteran to an entity. That's a loophole to be able to free up your benefits. Because veterans also don't realize is that you can put a VA loan in a trust. I did the same thing with my property, and you can still keep your tax exemption if you qualify.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you for that.
What other questions do we have?
Anybody?
I have a question. So you mentioned earlier that to get another VA home loan, do you have to have your first house become an investment property, or can you just sell it and get another loan?
Say it one more time.
You mentioned like turning like homes into like investment properties. Do you have to do that to get another VA home loan? I just wanted to clarify.
No. So if you, let's say you buy a place and then if you purchase another one, you don't have to rent out your current property, right? You can still keep it. The nice thing when you do that, which only applies to VA loans, is you can offset your departing residence mortgage payment. So it's not going to hit you for qualifying for the new place. But also no reserve requirements makes it dangerous. You guys run into situations with clients that ever have questions on like utilizing the VA home loan? Someone has questions.
We have a question in the chat.
Yeah. Visual map.
So Kurt put a note in the chat. Is there a county by county benefit map available for the entire US? For example, Cumberland and Wake counties have unique benefits and programs for veterans. Is there a visual map application where a veteran can drill down by county to see active benefits and web links to learn more?
No, nothing like that exists. The VA did a blog where they link state benefits, but there's so many counties and they change all the time. There's no easy way to be able to track that. But just kind of to dive just one more time with VA disability benefits, let's say for property, home ownership, typically you need to be 100% permanent in total, have an honorable discharge, right? And this also applies to surviving spouses that get the benefit passed on. You do have to reach out to each county from a tax benefit, like from the property tax benefit, because it can change widely. But yeah, you would have to do the manual work on finding out how it works. Because I mean, like even where I live in Lake County in Illinois, there's a lot of benefits that I still don't realize. But going to the fairs, that's how I know most of the things that I talk about is because going to the fairs and they're like, oh, we have this benefit, this benefit. And then when I talk to people, I'm like, oh, did you know they have this? But some counties don't make it really easy to see what their VA benefits are either. So that's why you normally have to. We recommend to call and talk with somebody. But some counties, you can't even get a hold of anybody. We've experienced that as well. Yeah, of course.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Real quick. So whenever you go to your website, there's a lot of services here listed. Would you mind kind of just giving a brief overview of everything that you do in your role?
Yes. So we do both the content on VA housing education of just, hey, these are all the policy changes and everything that's happening. On the website, what people can do is if they want to utilize our services, they can from being able to utilize the VA home loan itself. So if they want to purchase a property, they need credit counseling, they need to have a plan for the future. They'll be able to schedule a call, speak with me or someone on my team, and then we walk them through that home buying process because we're able to do the actual lending itself. And then we work with realtors across the country, connect folks with them if they're looking for somebody to help them with that actual real estate piece. Because like today, what we went over was like it was a quick one, right? Like this is kind of I do a lot of these too for TAPS programs, right? People are transitioning, kind of like a quick brief. But as you saw, like each thing there's a huge deep dive into it to really understand that. Does refinancing affect your entitlement? That's a great question. If you do a cash out refinance, yes. If you do an interest rate reduction refinance loan, no. So cash out, you were using more entitlement. They're taking more money from your entitlement. If you had $1 million mortgage and now you're at 200,000 and you refinance the 200,000 with an interest rate reduction refinance loan, you still have $1 million locked into your loan. That's the downside. But because you could technically refinance a VA loan out, I mean, a VA loan into a conventional loan, but because you own the property, your benefits are still locked into that property. Then you have to do what's called a once in a lifetime restoration of your benefits. That's a whole separate thing. Yeah, because a lot of times it gets down really granular. That's why it's very specific to each person's situation and what they're going through. Especially with like surviving spouses, being able to utilize that tax break, continue to use it when the veteran has passed away has been a big one. I mean, I just had a call this morning from a client, like an hour and a half before. We helped him buy a place a couple months ago, but his wife passed away this weekend. She was 100% PNT. And he's like, hey, what do I do with these property taxes? I'm like, you keep them. Like, you don't have to pay property taxes. So it's just a huge burden because that was $800 a month. So at least you guys have a resource. So if you guys have something come up, you can reach out. Again, happy to talk with anybody. The easiest thing to do is schedule a call because otherwise I might be sleeping
That's great, David.
because of the time difference.
Yes. What is it? 5 hours ahead of Eastern time?
Right now it's almost 8.
So after these meetings, I'll always send out a follow-up email. So I'll include your contact information and a link to this recording for everybody, as well as any of the helpful links that were shared in the chat and any of the good questions. Does anybody have any other questions for David? No?
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, David. I truly appreciate you joining us today. This was great information. Kurt is actually the one that inspired this topic. So thank you, Kurt, for the suggestion.
Thank
And
you.
I knew the right person to go to. So I met David at a conference in Dayton, Ohio. Was it Dayton? Yes,
Yep.
Ohio. In 2024. So yeah, a good full circle moment, bringing back some collaboration. Um, yes, so now we're going to kind of go into any group updates. So if you have any events to share, any other resources that you've learned about that you want to have shared to our network, again, you can raise your hand or just come off of mute to share that.
I do a lot of live events. So if you guys subscribe to the channel, I think we got one, we do a lot of VA home loan and disability stuff and housing market and VA home loan updates. So I work with a bunch of YouTube guys that help veterans be able to get VA disability compensation. So it's just kind of open forum. People just asking a million questions. I have this, can I get that? Like VA disability upgrades and stuff like that. We do like 5 a week, 5 a month or so.
Okay, that is great to know. And they just you can just go to your YouTube channel for those.
Yeah. If you subscribe, then you get notified of like, hey, live event happening. Because I think this week, tomorrow, I have one at 12 Eastern time. That's with VA disability compensation. And then the following week, Thursday at 12 again. But that's going to be like a huge collaboration because I'm bringing like the two biggest YouTubers that do VA disability compensation together with me in the middle. And then we're going to just be answering a ton of questions. So it should be a good time.
Let's see other events that are going on for the Joel Fund. Operation Art summer session registration is still open. We have a lot of classes and one-day workshops and that with I think there's only one virtual option that still has registration open. The other virtual classes have closed because they are full, which is very exciting. Operation Art is also still doing the free quarterly workshops in out in the community in the Triangle area. These are the Deploy Operation Art workshops. Single day events, May 25th on Memorial Day. We will be doing the Rollsville Memorial Mile with the town of Rollsville. We'll be walking from their town hall a mile to the Joel Center. And at the Joel Center, we'll have some lunch. So they're going to do a ceremony, we'll walk and have lunch at the Joel Center. This is kind of technically before the Joel Center opens, so we're very excited to kind of give a sneak peek to anybody that comes to that event. Our next coffee connection is on May 27th with Lisa as our guest speaker. Lisa is our grants manager, if you don't know. She's a veteran, she is a military spouse, and she is the mother of another veteran. She has a ton of military connections. She'll be a great speaker, very excited. If you're in the Raleigh area, there is a veteran stand down happening on June 6th. Wake County is hosting this event. There will be dozens of resources on site. There will be food, clothing. Please share this widely. I'll include the link on the follow-up email. What else is happening? Oh, a very exciting thing. The Joel Center is hosting an official open house June 12th and 13th. You should be getting an email in a couple hours, but you are all here right now, so you get to hear about this right now. June 12th and 13th is our open house. June 20th, we are having our next recon. This topic is again benefits, and we are going to be bringing in some folks from the VA to discuss benefits on site. And that is most of what I have. I know that was a lot, but I'll include all the notes in the email. Does anybody have anything else you'd like to add? Okay, wonderful. A nice short meeting this Tuesday. Our next VMFA meeting will be on June 9th, focusing on health and healthcare resources. That one will be hybrid, we believe. So hopefully we'll see you at the Joel Center for that one. Or if you want to join online too, that is wonderful as well. But I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday. David, thank you so much for joining us from afar. We really loved having you. And stay in touch, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.